Today, we're going to talk about River Phoenix. He was an actor with just this incredible raw talent, but his life was this really complicated and fragile mix of high ideals, deep trauma, and, in the end, just absolute tragedy.
You know, this quote from his mother, Arlen, it just cuts right to the heart of his story, doesn't it? From the time he was a little kid playing music on the streets to survive, all the way to being a movie star chased by cameras, River Phoenix was always being watched. And that was a role he never, ever got comfortable with.
And this is the moment that just sent shockwaves through the world. Halloween morning, 1993. A young man who was seen as this symbol of clean living and idealism was suddenly gone. How he ended up there is not just heartbreaking, it's also a serious cautionary tale. So to really understand the story, we have to start at its tragic end. His final hours at what was then a very notorious Hollywood hotspot. His girlfriend at the time, the actress Samantha Mathis, was right there with him. And her words, they paint this picture of a night that already felt wrong, you know? There was this sense of dread hanging in the air, even before everything fell apart.
When you look at this timeline, it is just terrifying how fast it all happened. I mean, we're talking about the span of less than an hour. River goes from telling a friend he feels sick to collapsing and having violent convulsions on the sidewalk. His younger brother Joaquin makes that frantic, now famous 911 call, while his sister Rain is literally trying to give him mouth-to-mouth on the pavement. And by 1:51 a.m., it was over.
So that's the big question, isn't it? How did one of the most talented actors of his generation end up dying on a sidewalk? To even start to find an answer, we have to go all the way back to the beginning, to a childhood that was anything but normal.
River Phoenix's path to stardom was not like anyone else's. Seriously, it was forged in poverty, a life spent on the move, and a controversial religious cult. His early life was just incredibly unstable. The family got involved with the Children of God, a group that became notorious for abuse allegations. And River himself would later reveal that he suffered a terrible trauma there when he was only 4 years old. They finally got out, and they changed their last name to Phoenix, to symbolize a rebirth, and then moved to California to try and get the kids into show business.
And from that really chaotic childhood, this undeniable talent just exploded onto the scene. After a few TV gigs, his role in Stand By Me made him a household name. But he wasn't just another teen idol. Not at all. He was a serious actor, getting an Oscar nomination and winning international awards for these incredibly brave roles that proved he was a brilliant and totally unique talent.
And this really gets to the core conflict of his life. This huge, gaping chasm between the person the world thought he was and the person he was desperately struggling to be behind closed doors.
And this slide just lays it out so clearly, that double life. Publicly, he was PETA's Humanitarian of the Year. He was a passionate vegan, an idealist who spoke out against drugs. He was the sensitive, clean-cut role model that everybody wanted him to be. But all that pressure, piled on top of trauma he'd never dealt with from his childhood, it created what his mom called a deep loneliness. He told his friends that being this poster boy for all good things felt like a trap. And his heroin use got worse, a secret he kept from almost everyone, including his family. In the days right before he died, friends said he was on a massive drug binge, just trying to escape an image he couldn't live up to anymore.
So, in the wake of this horrible tragedy, the world was desperate for answers, and all the speculation and rumors were about to be replaced by cold, clinical facts.
And here it is. This is the official autopsy report from the LA County Coroner. This document would provide the definitive and just utterly devastating explanation.
The official cause of death was blunt, no ambiguity. Acute, multiple drug intoxication. The report specified lethal levels of cocaine and morphine, what's called a speedball, along with a bunch of other substances. The rumors were true.
But, a clinical report doesn't tell you anything about the human suffering left behind. Samantha Mathis, who had to witness his death, she later lost her mother too. She said she just fell apart. She had to step away from acting entirely for 2 years, just to try and process all that grief.
Even though his life was cut so tragically short, his impact on Hollywood, on the people who knew him, it continues to echo, even decades later.
He actually died with just a few weeks of filming left on his last movie, Dark Blood. The film was shelved for nearly 20 years before the director finally edited it together and released it. But as this quote kind of suggests, the film itself was pretty troubled. It was a difficult and maybe not the most fitting final entry in his filmography.
But his death created these massive ripples that are still felt today. It was a huge wake-up call for a lot of young actors.
Leonardo DiCaprio, for example, actually saw Phoenix at the club that night, and people say he was so shaken by it that he steered clear of that whole scene. But maybe his most profound legacy is the one that lives on through his brother, Joaquin. Joaquin has always honored River's memory, and it all culminated in that beautiful Oscar speech where he quoted a lyric his brother wrote as a kid, "Run to the rescue with love and peace will follow."
So, where does that leave us? Was River Phoenix's death just the personal tragedy of a man battling addiction, a battle he ultimately lost? Or was it the inevitable result of taking a deeply sensitive soul, saddling him with childhood trauma, and then thrusting him into an industry that demanded he be a perfect icon? He was asked to be the poster boy for all good things while he was fighting demons nobody could even see. The truth is, it's not one or the other. It's a fatal mix of both. And it leaves us with a question that Hollywood, and maybe all of us, are still trying to answer. How do we protect the artists we claim to love from the very pedestals we build for them?